Welcome, everybody, back to Crown of Thorns, our Vampire the Dark Ages Chronicle. This is part 3. If you've missed the first 2 parts, you can find them on the Tickingtimebob Gaming channel. But before we indulge, before we dive headfirst into oblivion, let us once again introduce our players. I am joined, most happily, by by Zack, by Jack, otherwise known as Law by Night, and by the man himself, Bob, the Tickingtimebob. And our coterie of vampires has been through quite a lot over the past 24 hours. Hell, less than 24 hours. Some of the characters have been suffering for longer than that, of course. A long road filled with torments. Those torments may be coming to an end, one way or another. They've been saddled with what you could argue is a holy relic, what you may unfairly describe as a cursed piece of cloth. And certain of our vampires have finally realized the effect it is having not just on them, but on the mortals around them. What was at first attributed to the Malkavian who held it may in fact be more closely tied to this relic. As I say, some Cainites may know this, some may be a little slower on the uptake. We will find out which is which. Where we rejoin our coterie in the catacombs beneath the minstrel's mug. They're all desperately attempting to rest in their day sleep, something that Cainites don't usually find much trouble to manage. Certainly in our case, Vescom is in his deepest of slumbers. But despite this, Vescom, you do feel yourself stirring, writhing, wriggling around, as if your muscles are trying to escape your skin, as if your bones are trying to twist and contort. Something is trying to get through to you and rouse you. You can hear your voice on some level, muffled, like through water. Vescom! 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 Help! Help me, Vescom! But, Zack, you took the deep sleeper floor, and so Vescom rolls over. More motion than most vampires produce during their sleep, and shuts the sound down entirely. Your sleep isn't the only one that's troubled. Layla is often afflicted with nightmares, a flaw that Ree chose for her character. And these nightmares come almost every single day. They afflict her with twisted versions of her own memories, traumas that may or may not be real, fresh torments to visit her while she's trying to squeeze out an ounce of rest during the day, an ounce she is perpetually denied. This time, Layla's dreams, nightmares, are ever more vivid. It's almost as if you're there. This is a dream you often experience, except now it is in the town of Thorns. You are standing in the square, and you can see pyres have been erected, several, in fact, and in the midst of each of these mounds of twigs and branches and linen, a crucifix has been held up high, propped up, bodies slung onto them. No one's taking the time to hammer nails through the hands and feet. They're being tied around each end of the crucifix, and you can see monks in black cloaks putting flaming torches down into the pyre, and quickly that flame lights up. You are so close to it, you can feel that heat. You're here, Layla. You're standing here. You could touch that fire. They're not paying attention to you. You could reach down and hold that flame. Tell me what you're doing.
I want to run from it, but there's something drawing me closer. Like I can't look away, no matter how much I want to. And I find myself just stuck there, staring at it.
Yes, that heat is close now. It is licking up your own clothing and setting you aflame, and yet the fire, for some reason, is not a terror to you. It is in its own way a form of comfort. You are aflame, and yet it is not burning your skin. You are a beacon of light, a holy light, as if you are protected from all of the sin around, all of these terrible, terrible deaths, the screaming voices, these poor people on pyres all the way down this lane to the edge of thorns, all of them burning now. And for some reason, you are preserved. You're special. You're sainted. The woman on the pyre closest to you, she halts in her screaming just enough to look at you. Her eyes, they weep tears of blood, and she screams at you, "You fool! It is not night! It is not night! You cannot be here! It is not night yet!" And as she says it, the darkness above her parts, and you are now underneath a clear blue sky. There's not a cloud above you. You haven't seen a clear blue sky in many, many months. The sun is high above you. Just as your clothes burn from the fire, the heat washes over you, the light washes over you, and it still does not burn. It still doesn't sear the skin. Do you look at the sun? Do you take in the light, Layla?
I never thought I'd see it again. Yes.
It fills you. It cleanses you. It washes your soul. All the terrible things you have done, and you don't close your eyes as you look upon it. As the woman on the pyre screams her heart out, her skin blistering, and then it does more than blister, it disintegrates. Greasy ash, just as Griffith de Percy became. Bones, brittle, thin like twigs, snapping under the heat, until finally there is nothing that remains. And the monks chant, "Hallelujah!" and you are once again back in the catacombs. Awake. You know that it is day. You awake with a start, a scream. Warren,
Yes.
as Layla screams, you too wake. You have experienced none of these visions, none of these nightmares, but Layla is close to you, and when she sits upright, actually that's not true. Layla is on the other side of the room to you. I'll say that again. I remembered now. You made very pointed efforts to not be close to her. As Layla screams from her end of the catacombs, Warren, you too awake, as if the two of you are joined. Your eyes slowly blink open. You can feel the sluggishness that wants to drag you back. But she's in distress. Tell me, what do you do?
I think he would forces himself to sit upright. And I think it's with great effort that he does so. Great strain as he looks to Lady Shepherd, as he calls her.
This is a look that you wouldn't really be used to seeing on her because thus far she's been kind of the grounding force, especially in the midst of you and your sire. She looks panicked. She looks like she is not seeing, she's not sure whether what she's seeing is real. It's probably a look you've recognized from yourself, if anything. What happened where we used to warn? Is that
Lady Shepherd, what ails you?
dreams? I think nightmares, but it felt so real. I can't tell if it was a nightmare or a dream or something's happening to me.
His eyes will look to, if it's visible, the cloth.
Layla left it preserved on the ground in a mystical ward constructed with thaumaturgy. It remains. It has not moved. Though, as you are looking around, Warren, I'm not going to make you roll for this. It is quite apparent other objects in these catacombs have moved haphazardly. It's not like a trophy here has been moved to an alcove there and delicately placed like so. It is as if objects have flung themselves across the room and smashed against other surfaces, as if some telekinetic force had just exploded in these chambers at some point during the day.
Seems your powers manifest even while you sleep.
I don't understand how that's possible. What is this?
You carry with you a holy relic. Do you understand? A holy relic, and you are all but that. You are a monster. I'm a monster. We're all here monsters. That which you carry, it will destroy you. It will undo you. And it will undo everything around you. I would be glad to take it from you if you wish. I am sin after all. It can cleanse me, and if it undoes me, it undoes me. I am unnatural. I am a monster.
As you say that, Warren, you find yourself trailing off, your energy sapping. It is still daytime. In fact, while you have no internal clock, so to speak, it must be at least noon. The sun is high in the sky right now. You cannot continue this earnestness, and Layla, too, despite the trauma, your legs give way beneath you. This may be a conversation you have to continue once the sun has gone down. But this isn't all for the day. Vescom, you hear that voice again. Vescom, please! Please, Vescom! Please! Nothing. Nothing cuts through your slumber. Nothing can cut through the deep sleep. And so the voice moves onto Joan, who has been blissfully unaware of this conversation, these horrors, and now it is dry and rasping. And Joan, you hear this clearly. Joan, wake up, they are going to burn me, Joan! It is up to you if you wake up, Joan. You have the power to do so, and you recognize the voice. You're the only person with enough consciousness and who might know this Cainite to recognize it. It is the voice of Melina, the Toreador of Thorns, who you haven't met since all of this this farrago of shit broke out, but she is pleading with you internally, somehow connecting with you mentally, begging.
I think Joan would awaken, but unless there's other forces at play that will force this, she's not going to rush herself.
No, it's more like a dog tugging on your sleeve to wake you up, to let you know it wants to go outside. Hell, that may even be how Joan thinks of Melina. Never quite established the depth of your relationship with the Toreador, but the voice is ebbing. They're going to burn me! Going to burn. It's funny, Joan, in a way, a very morbid, sadistic kind of way. You can sense that she's being dragged away, not far from where you are now, kicking, crying, and screaming. Despite her age and her power, right now she is as helpless as a mortal, less than a mortal. She's as helpless as a child. She's a vampire being dragged out into the day. You are admittedly limited by what you can do physically, but you have this mental connection. Do you try and offer her any kind of compassion, any kind of reason, any kind of promise? Vengeance, justice, just a goodbye, Melina? What passes through your mind, Joan? Because whatever it is will reach her.
So it's a really tough question because there's so many different factors that would prevent her from being any level of kind, the low humanity, the one dot of conscience, the no dots in empathy. But at the same time, there is just that level of sympathy of the inherent fear that vampires have of the sun and whatever it may be that's dragging her out. I'm not sure, honestly, what she would say or do other than just stew in thought.
Well, isn't that always the way? When disasters happen, there will always be some people who stand around, shocked, unable to move, incapable of taking action, maybe trying to choose the best course until finally there is no course to take. And in this case, Melina's voice does drop off. Be assured there would have been very little you could have done to physically aid her. Anything you did do in that regard would have undoubtedly threatened yourself. And you know it, Joan. You weren't going to just run out into the sun to rescue this artisan. But there is still that vestige of sympathy mixed with the fear. In a way, you and she weren't so different. Two Cainites trying to make the best of a rather sorrowful existence, all told. You've lost your haven, she's lost her body. and soul. And so, Joan, you too can return to your sleep. The next time we rejoin our coterie, the sun has finally gone down. Vescom, you slept reasonably well. And despite the fact you have your deep sleeper flaw, as I keep pointing out, on this night, you rise with the rest of them. Hell, maybe on some subconscious level, Vescom, you know you're slightly closer to being the authority in this domain.
I think Vescom was wrestling with some amazing, deep dreams of stories he would create one day. And he probably awakes mumbling slowly, as he is not quick to wake, something about shadow puppets and pyres and something about the moon. But he kind of shakes his head, blinking. Well, actually not blinking. He has no eyelids. One of his 3 wormy tongues slithers up his face to wipe his one eye in the gunk that has accumulated from the night. He'll hiss out over the darkness. I think it's time to wake. Much to do, way too much to do.
Layla, you know where you fell. You knew where you were when you started losing consciousness again. Someone or something has returned you to the alcove you were sleeping in before. Not so for you, Warren. You are still laid out on the ground, flat. Joan, you were back where you rested your head.
Immediately, Layla's going to stand up and kind of look around to see if other things have moved.
Since you're waking during the day, it would appear not, only you.
Everyone else has had a peaceful slumber. Though I can't say I expect many of us have.
Warren will stand at that point, his eyes still very emotive of his concern.
You're right.
Do you intend to keep it, Lady Shepherd?
You say that if you take it, won't the same just happen to you?
Perhaps it will undo me. I can return to the woods alone.
Is it wise to repeat the sins of your father?
I am the sins of my father.
You are free. You don't need to be attached to this thing that has caused so much suffering, so much loss and destruction.
What do we believe are the possibilities for this relic? Whether it's holy or unholy, I haven't quite decided. What we must decide is what to do with it. It cannot stay here. The people will not survive. We will not survive if it stays here.
I could just find a way to safely transport it back to the Chantry. I know that they would be able to study it, know what to do with it, understand it. I don't have the tools to do it here myself.
I have the tools to destroy it, because I'd hate to imagine what your superiors could do with that. If a Malkavian is able, in the space of a night, to turn everybody here into a raving orgy, do you seriously believe they would do any good with that back in Winchester?
Do you, Layla, do you think your tower, your grand tower, can contain such power? Do you think it may perhaps be their ruin? I wouldn't like to see a tower destroyed.
Because we are here and not in Winchester, and we are far away enough that I can speak my mind somewhat plainly, I believe. I would be honest, I care. My personal care for what goes on.
Make a willpower roll just as you start saying that, Layla.
Makes sense.
Rebellion.
Let's
Impossible.
see how rebellious you can be against Clan Tremere.
Yep.
In the sagely words of Ralph Wiggum, I'm in danger.
Now, if you can spend a temporary dot of willpower if you like, if you just want to force your way through the blood bond.
I kind of think it's more interesting to roll for it.
All right.
I did roll 2 successes and both of them are 10s.
Excellent. Well, I would say then that you feel, as you're speaking, you feel a portcullis come down in your mind, just a slam of iron almost across your tongue that prevents you from speaking, and yet somehow your tongue, much like Vescom's probably would, slithers through the gaps in that wrought iron gate and enables you to continue speaking as if the iron wasn't there at all. The Tremere blood bond is not going to prevent you from speaking out against the clan and the house. But these kinds of rebellious thoughts will have lasting effect effect on a Tremere.
Okay, so I think she almost, as she says it, I think, almost pauses for a second reflexively because, like, before realizing that she's actually able to continue, because I think she, being the type of woman that she is not built for being in structure. She is not built to be a Tremere, but she's had to be for some time now. And she's used to having thoughts that get interrupted halfway through and written over, like someone was just spilling water on fresh ink, spreading it across a page till she can barely remember what it is that she was going to be saying in the first place. So it's almost like she's expecting that to happen, and when it doesn't, it's almost a boost of confidence, I think, that she hasn't had in some time. That's right. I care very little for anything that the tower or my clan wishes to pursue. They have kept me from my death, and they have some power over me still, and if I could be free of that, perhaps I would, but I'm afraid that's not the world we live in. You are always held back by some kind of chains, whether they be the chains of life or the chains of unlife. But that said, I know if any of you have any interest in bargaining, and she'll gesture towards the rag. This is a bargaining chip, if I've ever seen one.
It's just as dangerous as for bargaining as it is for any other means of holding it. I don't think it should be in more powerful hands. I don't think the Tremere should hold it.
We have so let me see. And Vescom has already taken out a piece of paper to jot down notes. So we have the tower, the Tremere leadership in the area as one possible place to take this relic. But what others? What if we consider that it's blood from a saint, right? Correct. Saints come from the church and the holy. What if we were to bring it back?
If you're up for a suicide crusade, by all means, go ahead. But I sincerely believe that the best thing for this is its destruction, rather than passing it from one strong hand to the other.
Right. True. Can we destroy it? Is that a option?
Why would we destroy a holy relic?
So no more has to die, and lives are lost. Unlife or living. It seems rather apparent to me.
I think it's interesting hearing what Warren's response is. It's almost a little bit surprising because he's been the most, aside from Joan, the most vocal about don't touch it. This is bad, this is causing destruction, but he is yet also saying don't destroy it. So I think Rilla kind of turns to him and, what would you have us do with it then?
It was mentioned the church. Maybe it belongs with the church once more. Or at least someone of the faith.
Joan, in response to that, will... Sorry, all right. In response to that, Joan will very loudly throw up her arms and clap them down on her thighs and just pace around a little bit. If she was not so ladylike, she'd probably swear a little bit in sheer frustration of what she deems to be complete idiocy.
And Joan, you're not oblivious to the power this thing holds, both for good and ill. As you pace around and you draw closer to it, even just for a fraction, you can recognize that the rag is a relic. The rag is a vector. It is the conduit through which the curse on your blood can flow. And sure, it's telling you right now, it's telling the La Sombra in you that this is far too powerful to just discard. Strength something like this would have in a rival domain, like dropping 100 kine all infected with the Black Death on the doorstep of a rival. What kind of status could that earn a magister with aspirations of greater things? But that is just a whisper. You have spoken out so vehemently against using it that you don't need to roll to know that this is a lure. This relic isn't sentient. This isn't the One Ring. It's just provoking that deepest part of you that wants power, that wants influence, that wants respect. This could give you all of those things. But unless you choose, it doesn't have that effect.
Not yet, I think, although as part of that whisper, as quick as and brief as it is, as somebody who's just lost everything, part of the whispering narrative that she will do her best to ignore for the time being.
We could, and Vescom holds up a bent, clawed finger. We could bury it until we find someone of enough knowledge and expertise that they would have a better mind on the matter. I have a good, wonderfully prepared places that we could drop it into the earth and bury it with much dirt and rock and bodies, and that way no one will disturb it, and hopefully it will have enough distance from the people on the surface.
That is a thought. How would you propose we handle it, getting it into the dirt?
Vescom opens his mouth to speak, all the toothy maw, but nothing really comes out as he pauses for a second. Oh, this is more difficult.
Perhaps wherever we intend to transport it, as we have yet to decide, or destroy ultimately. She kind of says that reluctantly, but with the admission that that is an option on the table. Wherever we tend to transport it, wherever we tend to take it to Detroit, whatever we intend to do with it, perhaps we should take turns with it so that it doesn't impact any one person too much. It's not ideal, but...
I like it. We could even, what if we each touched it at once and we held it together? Do you think it would be dispersed amongst us so we could, make better time?
Would hate to see the effect of mortals with the insatiable need to commit orgies and to throw things with their mind. I'd hate to see what it would do when I were to touch it, or, heaven forbid, what you placed your warty maw all over it. Because we seem to be overlooking the effect on the populace mass here.
Right, but if it's in... The fact is, as long as we have it, we have to do something with it. It's going to affect... I mean, it's just doing whatever it's doing now. It's throwing things, I suppose. Using my powers, if that's what's happening.
If it uses the abilities and the strength of the wielder, then we just had to find someone who's very weak. What if we find, like, a little dog in town, or a small child?
It's a good question as to what this would do in the hands of the kind, hands of a mortal.
And just like that, Layla is back to being a wise mystic. It is, what are the possibilities? What are the limits?
What if we had someone... We cannot go into the light, but there's nothing to say that one of the kind could not venture into this lovely abode.
I have some associates that could keep hold of it for the time being, until we have a proper idea what to do with it.
Others like us?
No. Mortals.
It would be worth, I believe, seeing what might happen if it were to enter the hands of a mortal. Warren, you said it last night, or last day, morning. Us, we're monsters. We're not meant to hold. If it is some sort of holy power that it has, we're not meant to hold it. But who's to say what might happen? Perhaps the effects would be different, or nothing at all.
Hands of the meek. It seems worth trying. I still think it belongs with those of the faith. It seems to create curse around us.
It's as you say that, Warren, that Vescom, you hear the cabinet that leads to the staircase that leads to these catacombs shifting. You know that sound, that grinding sound of wood on stone. Someone is coming down here. Maybe we could call this serendipity or fate. Master Vescom. Sorry. And you hear the plodding footfalls of Big Belko as he's warily making his way down to where the candles have been melted down to this level. They've been burning all throughout the day. Vescom. He turns the corner. He has a fresh candle on a plate in his hand. Thank God.
Vescom waves happily with a big, strange, monstrous smile on his face. Big Belko, good. I'm glad that are you feeling better than before?
Here's a question for you. Is Big Belko used to your monstrous appearance?
I don't think anyone could ever be used to his monstrous appearance, but it is not. He's seen it before and often because Vescom really doesn't like to take other appearances when he's down in these catacombs. He feels more free to be who he truly is down here. So still probably puts him off, but not going to run away screaming.
He raises a hand to his nose and mouth and he turns away as soon as he sees you. My Master Vescom. I'm keeping my voice low, sir. People about in town have been since just past dawn. They've been there all day.
What kind of people? Interesting ones? Do they have nice hats?
No hats, sir. They're wearing black monk. I think they call them monastic vestments. That's it. They been lighting fires, sir. They've been, I dare say, looking for folks like yourself, but specific like they're looking for the newcomers. Their leader, man, his name's Brother Samson, a pious man, holy man. He said when he and his horsemen arrived, they interrupted my prayer. You recall, you gave me the day to pray, and they interrupted my prayer. They dragged me off my knees, and they asked that I take them, commanded that I take them to anyone who had arrived in Thorns over the past day, week, and I was not the only one. They used us like hounds, sir. It was all I could do to not bring them down here. I felt compelled. I could not do that to you, sir.
I think Vescom is he's going to take a few steps and wrap Big Belko in a hug and tap
No, please, sir. That's not necessary.
No, you have done well. You've done so well, Big Belko. We are all appreciative of your efforts and what thuggery of these newcomers in town, even if they are monks or holy men, to disturb you from your prayers. Just ridiculous. But I appreciate it nonetheless. These holy men, did they come armed? Do they have knights?
No knights that I recognize, sir, but they came armed with clubs and blades all themselves. There's a great many of them, more than there are of you, that is. The reason I come down here at risk of breaching your resting place, he says, somewhat dubiously. They will find this place, sir. They will tear this town apart. They say that they have the scent of unholiness inside them, and they will not leave until they have purged Thorns of all of its wickedness, sir. And he says that looking at Layla and looking at Warren. The newcomers, sir. The ones who killed the saint.
Sense. But
Do not put a curse on me, witch of the woods. I know what kind of person you are. I know that you are not a Christian woman.
Well, then you'd probably do best not to threaten me or draw my ire, wouldn't you?
Protect me, master.
Vescom has enjoyed the little exchanges there. He kind of gives one clap before turning to Big Belko. It seems our time here will need to take a pause, at least for us. Big Belko, I'm going to place the minstrel's mug in your solid and protective hands for a time. My friends and I need to leave for a bit. I will be back, but at least for now it seems like they trust you, or at least a little bit. So many of the people in the town know that you work here, so it does not mean too much to them that you would still be here at the Minstrel's Mug. I hope they don't touch all of my things. And Vescom almost angrily gestures to the junkyard of a catacomb. The spittle kind of flies across as he gestures. They are my precious things, so if you would be so kind to make sure you close up the further reaches down here while you are owner of the Minstrel's Mug.
I will do my very best, sir, but I must say that if they do force me into the box to confess. I do not know how long I can hold my tongue, sir. They are men of God, you understand, and you must understand, sir, that my spirit is divided between love for you and love of the Lord, as it is for all good Christian men. That is, not all of them love you. You understand what I'm saying, sir, I'm sure.
I do. It's a conundrum, I see. The Lord works in mysterious ways when it comes to our kind. But I cannot fault you, Big Belko. We will be gone before they will be asking you any questions. And if it is between your life and the life of my many things down here, then choose your life.
That he begins to weep. That is a genuine show of compassion, kindness to this rather pathetic ghoul. Thank you, sir. You show me that you are a fine master, as fine as any lord in any castle.
I think Layla kind of makes eye contact with Vescom and kind of glances toward the rag on the floor. Almost pointedly, she will release her ward on it.
Vescom doesn't look entirely convinced with that look. He seems to be mulling it over. The boils on his skin pulsate as he, his one unblinking eye looks towards the rag. It would make for an interesting development. Do you all think that Big Belko could be it?
He's a man of the Lord, as he said so himself.
More so than you are.
That's not it's not very hard to do, I have to say. But you shouldn't believe everything you hear, Belko.
I know what you are.
I'm sure you think you do.
I don't think Warren understands I think he's had like the shittiest teacher of being a vampire ever.
Sorry about that.
I don't even think he knows what. No, it's perfect. I don't know if he knows what ghouls are, but he does have aspects at 3, and I don't think he fully even understands how to, make that happen. I wonder if there might be a moment where, when everyone's scrutinizing Belko in this, maybe or perception kicks on, and he has a sense of either something being normal or wrong with him, because that could affect how Warren's response is to it.
Absolutely. Would you like to roll for that?
Sure.
Wonderful.
Grabbing it now. This is his strong suit. Difficulty, I believe it'd be 8, so it's 4 successes.
4 successes. Nice. Okay. You're going to get to see something really interesting in Technicolor and stereo surround sound, Warren, if you keep watching and things change. Right now, as you perceive Belko, you can see that wavering spirit that, much like the boils coating Vescom, pulses almost with a reaching affection for the Nosferatu. There's something unwholesome about it. He is caught somewhere between life and undeath. You can sense that from the ripples of his shadow, of his soul. But more than anything else, the emotions that his spirit currently exudes are utter love, utter devotion, fanaticism even. And then whenever he casts a look over at Layla, there's a shock, a jolt of fear and spite, prejudice. And then he goes back to Vescom, and it's once again warm and secure and just unhealthily devoted.
It doesn't seem like he is free of the curses we carry entirely, but I will not stand in the way of your experiments.
So we had decided then, Joan will pipe up, slowly approaching the jar of bloody rag, just to gauge the reactions of everybody else.
She's lifting it.
If nobody stops her, she'll very gingerly go down to attempt to hand it over.
Okay. Yeah. Lila will watch curiously.
Joan You place your hand on this bloodied article. Again, it doesn't matter that there might be a barrier between you and it. It is the physical act, the spiritual act of handling it that affects you. And it cuts through you like a scythe. It cuts through your shadow. It separates you from your shadow. It makes you, for just a moment there, feel pure and whole and mortal again. And somewhere above you, there is a dull scream. At first you think it's one voice, but then you realize it is a chorus of screams just resounding in perfect unison, just complete terror, woof, whooshes through a crowd somewhere above you, loud enough that it makes its way through all these layers of earth. Joan, I know, blood points, they come and go. You're going to need to lose 2 of them.
I see. And this screaming, I'm presuming that is only something that Joan can hear?
Oh, yes.
Okay. The sensation that you have described, like the almost detaching of oneself and the screaming, I think there's just this very sudden, sharp intake of as they hold it. Once they've sort of regained themselves, feeling a little bit embarrassed that they've shown a moment of weakness amongst these Canaanites, all looking at her, she will gingerly, perhaps trying to get over the shock of what she's just experienced, and just hand it over to Belko. But as she does so, like leaning forward towards him, I would like to activate that command for dominate and just utter the command, burn it.
Okay. Belko is a ghoul, so I'm going to need to make you roll for this, please.
Mm-hmm. It is against the victim's willpower.
Although you're going to be looking at a difficulty of 5 here.
Okie dokes. That's
For all Belko's simplicity, he's fairly hard-headed for a mortal.
Would you say that my manipulation specialty of persuasive cuts the mustard? I think I'd be pushing it a little bit, but I thought I would ask all the same.
If it's if you're doing the one word, well, the simple command, I don't know that that's very persuasive. That's more intimidating, if you see what I mean. So let's say no in this case. I'm usually quite generous. Today I'm not.
That's absolutely fine. As I said, I didn't think it would be, but don't want to later regret it in that sense.
Now, if you can make it worth his while, that would be persuasive.
So that's 3 successes, one of which is a 10.
Fantastic. He has this instruction in his mind, burn it. His eyes glaze over as he takes it from you. All of you Canaanites are watching him. And we go back to you, Warren, and your perception of this ghoul, this man. As he handles this bolt of cloth, soaked in the blood of Thomas Becket, his spirit changes form. The undead aspect just bleeds off of him, pools to the ground, disappears into the earth. And what was once devotion, loyalty, fanaticism is now abject terror and revulsion as he looks at Vescom and sees Vescom for what he actually is. As he holds this cloth, no longer a ghoul is he. Now he knows that this monster has had control over his mind. Now he knows Vescom has had him in a bridle for all this time. And there is still confusion. Your La Sombra's dominate trick isn't suddenly going to be waived because this power has disappeared in a flood. He is still going to burn it. Not here, not in these catacombs. Right now, his urgent need is to flee. And so, clutching it tightly, he bolts for the staircase, screaming.
Layla's gonna snap to Joan. What have you done? I thought we had a plan.
Change of plan. She smirks.
The curse left him. It left him.
Layla's running after him.
It melted. It melted. Right down to his feet. Whatever hold you had on him, monster, it's gone.
He looked at me like I was ugly or something. Vescom looks disturbed that Big Belko would look at him and be afraid like that.
Yes, Uri.
Yeah, Layla's run after, going. At least that's what she would be moving to do, to run after him.
Well, It doesn't sound like anyone is intending on intercepting, so Layla, you gather yourself and you tear off after Belko. Belko hurries up the stairs, practically tripping over his own feet. I know this isn't necessarily your strong suit, Layla, but I'm going to ask you to make we'll go for a dexterity and athletics roll. Good luck with that. He has the fear of God in him, quite literally. So you're going to be looking for a difficulty of 7 to outpace him.
This might be a worthwhile place to spend willpower.
Yeah. He is still screaming, still spluttering, crying, all the bodily functions.
And 2 successes.
2 successes, fantastic. You can grab hold of his ankle as he is about to burst out onto the ground floor of the minstrel's mug.
Yeah, so she will, and just gonna try to use her powers to try to fling the cloth from his hand.
Excellent. I like the sound of that. Going to try and use movement of the mind to take it from him. All right, let me get that then. And of course, it isn't called movement of the mind.
It's the Latin version.
Yes, it's the movementus ovus theus mindus.
Flenus Yeetus.
Yes,
Poetic
as they named it in the
motive.
Asterix comics, I think. Clothus bigonus. Okay, so all you need to do is roll you spend a point of blood, you roll willpower, against the difficulty of the powers level +3. So this is going to be a level 2. So please roll willpower against difficulty 5.
2 successes.
2 successes. He holds on with surprising strength. He is desperate here, and yet you drag this relic from his hand. It is as if you're on the other side of him, actually pulling it out of his fist, even though you're holding onto his ankle right now from behind, and it slips out through his fingers and across the minstrel's mug, just smacks against a wall soundlessly. And as it does so, Big Belko lets out a final scream. It is just a pained, high-pitched, inhuman, almost as much like Griffith de Percy, but with significantly less solemnity and gratification. He just disintegrates in your hands. Now, outdoors, we're not leaving you yet, Layla. You hear the barking, you hear the barking of dogs and raised voices. Brothers, stand firm. The darkness has abated, but there was a scream in this tavern, in this bawdy house. Enter, but do so with caution. If there are beasts within, they will not share the same vulnerabilities as the one we caught during daytime. Take flame with you and hold your crosses before you. Do not back away, but do not allow them to speak or make eye contact.
I think she freezes for a moment and kind of just looks back down towards the others. It's a moment of fuck.
Yeah.
Bad.
It is a moment of fuck.
So
Enough of
she's
those recently.
I think so what she's thinking, the rag is up there. She knows that the others are down there. She's going to, I think even in her, she still has some humanity in her. There is definitely a feeling like, I fucked up. I need to fix this. So she is going to try to draw them away. She's going to go upstairs the rest of the way.
Yep.
Slam the door.
So basically dragging the cabinet back across the alcove that leads to the staircase, okay.
And I think, where are the exits of the mansion?
This is a simple Middle Ages building. It is not built to safety or fire code. You have a couple
One
of
door.
doors at
Is
the
there a
front.
window?
I would say there could be some shuttered apertures for windows. Why not? Certainly nothing with glass over them.
Right. Some things that she could potentially fit through.
Yeah. My question to you, Ree, is Layla rushing to grab the cloth beforehand, or are you just leaving it among the debris, which, during the day, between his prayers and being interrogated, as commanded, Belko was tidying the debris in this place up. So right now it is rather unceremoniously draped over the remains of a table that not that long ago was used to cave someone's skull in.
Yeah.
Appropriate for a rag that's soaked in the blood of Thomas Becket in a way.
Yep. Oh, her eyes definitely drawn toward it. I think, though, she doesn't want to draw. I think if she's making a quick judgment, trying to get it now will draw more attention to it, whereas if she doesn't do that, it'll just look like it's part of the debris and less likely to draw the attention from the hunters.
Yes.
So she is going to just instead go straight for the window, though I think to cause a little bit more noise, she might try to fling one of the benches or something with her mind.
Okay, what, to essentially try blocking the door, slow them down a little. I won't make you roll. You can spend a blood point again, however, for the potestas motus. But yes, you can block the door, at least temporarily, by telekinetically shoving the furniture aside and then scrabble for the window. I appreciate the other three of you. We need to get back to you in a moment. But before we do, Layla, as you climb out through the window, you've had a few moments like this, but this is going to be another, I'm afraid, at least briefly. You will be frozen in absolute fucking terror because the events from your dream, the events from your nightmare, the thoroughfare through Thorns from east to west is lined with pyre after pyre after pyre, many with crucifixes erected, some they just couldn't be bothered. You recognize some of the people. And you only just arrived here. You recognize that noblewoman who was in the minstrel's mug. She was, after all, only a recent arrival. Her bodyguard, he's unconscious, looped up to his own crucifix, his jaw practically hanging off and a constant drizzle of blood emerging from his mouth where he's been brutalized. Anyone who is suspect is lashed to one of these lengths of wood and is either already aflame or soon to be so. Can I ask you to make I think you've got conviction, haven't you, rather than self-control?
Yeah,
Make
so.
a conviction roll, please. Or rather, conviction rather than conscience.
Yes. That's just rolling with the number of d10s.
Yep, we're looking for 6s and above.
1 success, but it's a 10, so I guess that means 2 successes.
Yep. In that case, you can break your way free. You're determined. You're on this course. If you want to, you can snap out of this unliving nightmare, and keep running to preserve the rest of the coterie, if that's what you wish.
Yes.
Very good. And so you bolt. You've made a lot of noise. There will be people screaming, begging you for help as well from the pyres. So certainly attention is going to have been drawn your way, which means we will go back down to the catacombs. Naturally, all of this took place in the course of about 5 to 10 seconds. So there hasn't been much that has passed from then to now. You heard the scraping of the cabinet blocking you in again, whether you want to be blocked in. Vescom, you know there are other ways out of these tunnels. You don't have to come up through the minstrel's mug. After all, you emerged from the Roman villa the night before. It seems Layla has sealed you in. You heard Belko's scream. You think it was Belko. Anyway, it didn't sound like any scream you'd heard before, more like a pig being gutted than a human that cut off. Warren, Vescom, Joan, I turn it to you. There's panic in the air. What do you...
I was going to ask, did we hear the presumably inquisitors shouting into the minstrel? Are they too far away or us too far down to have heard that properly?
It would have been muffled, but I'm happy for you to have picked up the gist.
Okay. That does affect what Joan was going to do, because without that knowledge, I think Joan, not being technically being trapped in here, would want to give up the chase. But if they've heard that, I think they've got enough of their self not to do that. She will do her best to scurry about, I guess, literally perhaps more animalistic, reflecting her recent plummet into more bestial natures, trying to remember where the nearest, like the other exit that took us up and about outside of Thorns. but not too proud of herself still to ask for help.
I think Vescom is staring up over at the wardrobe that is acting as the door, the stopper to the catacombs down here. His mouth kind of open. Layla's up there. We have to do something. Why in Belko? He looks towards the others.
There's a look of almost like this realization in Warren's eyes as he puts certain pieces together, more from what happened down here than what's happening up there. And he looks to Vescom and he says, "We have to go find her. We have to find Belko."
Vescom looking up those stairs, you can't be sure that's Belko, but there's definitely an explosion of offal and rotten chunks of human flesh.
I think Vescom he's too curious. He's too curious a cat to stay down in the catacombs and miss out on the story going on upstairs. He needs to at least see what happened, especially that mysterious screech. Like, he never heard really such a thing. If he can, I think he is going to go over to the wardrobe and try to nudge it over just enough so he can squeeze through with under the cover of obfuscate to poke a head up.
Okay. Is anybody else ascending? It sounds like Joan is trying to work her way through the labyrinth. Warren?
Warren's going to follow Vescom.
Okay, so as the two of you are ascending, Joan, you have this bestial need to get out of here. This is the dog trapped in the corner now. The house is on fire. You're looking for any possible way out. You're a rat in a maze. Can I ask you, as you start looking in these infernal catacombs, a place you have always hated spending time with Vescom in the few occasions you've done so socially, what he considers a pharaoh's tomb is a pit for pottery shards as far as you're concerned. Making your way through past the dead ends, the looping tunnels, everything that could take you back to the Roman villa, I'm going to ask you to make for me I'm going to call for an intelligent. No, wits, actually. Wits is fast thinking. We're going to go for wits, and we're going to go for survival, I think.
Okay. Sensing the danger in the air, I shall spend a willpower to grant myself that guaranteed success. I'm not trusting the dice all that much.
No, the difficulty is 9 here, because this place was not built to be navigated by anyone other than a certain Nosferatu.
I would have 2 successes, but I got a 1 that removed a 9, so I just have the 1 success from the willpower.
Don't you worry, we're not having 1s remove successes in this game. They only take effect if you roll no successes at all.
Thank you for the reminder. Then in that case, then it's just the 2 successes.
2 successes. Okay, well, 2 successes is good because it gets you out of this immediate catacomb area, deeper into the labyrinth. You're not going to come up in the Roman villa, you're sure of that. This isn't a part of the tunnels you recognize, but there is an upward slope. It might bring you up into the woods, perhaps. How far has this damn leper tunneled? It doesn't matter. You can climb up into the starlight away from this death trap, if you wish.
She would, and I think with that, as she ascends into dark unknown territories, I would like to employ shadow play to have the darkness a bit more in my favor, either stealthily or socially / intimidation related themes if need be. So that will require me to spend a blood point, and I can add a die to intimidation and dice and stealth dice as well.
Well, stealth is exactly what we're looking for here, because as you emerge, can I ask you to make a dexterity and stealth roll, please, Jack?
Sure. And I will mention that mortals find this terrifying and have to make a courage check of 7. And if they fail, their social pool's reduced by 1 when they see this power in use.
Oh, this may not work as you're hoping.
It might not do. What was the difficulty, did you say?
The difficulty here is only going to be 6s.
6s, I got 2.
Okay, you clamber up and discover that you're in the cemetery of St. Anselm's. It appears Vescom at some point built a tunnel that emerged from someone's mausoleum. You're fairly certain it wasn't his. And you can push the stone door aside and see, luckily you are still cloaked in shadow due to your shadow play, proud of mortals. They seem almost somnambulant, sleepwalking in a daze, like they were sat here, standing around, shuffling about, as if, well, quite likely the last longer than 24 hours has taken it out of them somewhat. Almost like they're all in a state of shock. And they're all here gathered outside St. Anselm's Church. Unbeknownst to you, it's where they've been sent. It is the only place that can save them now. But then comes this gathering darkness that oozes out from the mausoleum. You're utilizing stealth, and so the whole point of that is to not be seen. But that doesn't mean they're not intimidated by the encroaching dark. It's pretty dark here as it is. When the stars start blotting out and the moon dims, one of them shouts out, "The darkness has returned! The darkness of not an hour ago! We must flee! Even the church is damned!" At which point panic spreads through the graveyard like a plague. Maybe that helps you, Joan, because it will clear the crowd. Maybe it will draw more attention to you. We'll get to that. Warren and Vescom. I'm not suggesting this is going to be a happy ending for anybody. Warren and Vescom. Almost certainly not for you right now. Vescom, you seep your way past the cabinet to see what's going on. As you say, your curiosity is far too great to keep your head down where it's safe. As a player, I know, I'm sure you've watched Night of the Living Dead before. They always say, stay in the cellar, it's the safest place. As it is, yes, you emerge onto the ground floor. Just as your doors, the doors to the minstrel's mug, are finally torn down. You remember when you hung those doors. It's a strange thing. It shouldn't have much sentimental import, but you built this place. You were in the woods, cutting down trees, shaving down the timber. You built those doors. You packed the mud and the straw into these walls to make it a thick and sturdy building. And your sanctuary has quite literally been breached as the doors get ripped down. And standing in that archway on the threshold, you can see monks in black cloaks. The one at their front, bald, thickly built, has a prominent, you could even say, anvil-like chin. He has ash coated across his forehead. You are obfuscated right now. He casts about, "The scream came from in here. I want this place torn down. I can smell the wickedness in here. They said there was an orgy taking place here, that the mutilations began here. This is the center of the sin in this town. It will be burned down after we are done with our search." At which point Brother Samson makes a simple gesture with his torch, and his fellow monks, well, as if the place wasn't ruined enough, start breaking down the furniture even more, lifting things up, knocking over cabinets, checking the barrel that had the beer in the night before, then tipping it over, and the dregs of last night's drink just spill onto the floorboards. It couldn't be much more ruined than it was. But somehow they manage it. Somehow these holy men managed to defile your place of sanctuary. Warren, you of course get to witness this audio only first. You aren't quite as protected. Unless, and here's my question to you, Zack, are you extending your obfuscate? Because I know you have the ability to do so.
If Warren was coming along behind, then Vescom would have. He doesn't. I mean, even for self-preservation, having someone seen right next to him, not a great thing. So, kind of cloak Warren as well with cloak the gathering. A question.
Yeah.
From where Vescom is doing his usual sneaky peeking, what does he doesn't see Belko. Does he see the mess, the exploded whatever
You see the
is left?
exploded remains of Belko. Whether
Eh.
you connect two and two in your mind and realize what it is you're looking at is up to you. There isn't anything recognizably Belko about them, but certainly this wasn't here yesterday.
I think Vescom's going to have to roll a self-control. I think he does pick up Belko as his ghoul for a long time. And while there's not much left of Belko, perhaps the smell of Belko's gooey blood bits that are left is familiar, or just he almost feels it, perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
Or the story he's concocted in his mind is turned into a nightmare.
Yeah, this wasn't the ending you had planned for Big Belko. I will say, for the sake of viewers who care about mechanics, if we're using the unseen presence discipline and then extending it, that doesn't actually require a dice roll. It will require a dice roll if Zack fails his self-control, because he will make sufficient noise that it might break the illusion. So, go for it, Zack. Let's see let's roll self-control.
Vescom does have 3 dice for it.
Mm-hmm.
What difficulty, both with Belko and his lovely minstrel's mug?
I'm tempted to be quite harsh here and say 9. This is much as Joan was utterly wrecked when her haven was. You're seeing everything you've built get torn down, including your servant.
Right. Okay. Let's see. 3, 5, and a 3. That is no.
No.
Did Vescom see the rag?
No, I don't think you had the wherewithal to really focus on a single rag amid all the detractors. You let out a scream of anger, frustration. You show yourself. The illusion drops. There's no wits plus stealth roll needed now. You've basically botched it. To your eyes, Vescom had disappeared into a cloud of mist that you knew you were a part of, and then all of a sudden his hunched back is visible to you again, and just beyond it, in this chamber, you can see the flickering of torches. There is a hissed voice, a loud hissed voice. There they are, the monsters! Do not let them speak! Do not make eye contact! Burn them! Burn them!
Warren's running the opposite direction immediately.
Very fair, very
and
smart.
Here we see the self-preservation instincts for this Malkavian finally kick in. Excellent. Warren, you go galloping down the stairs. Usually I wouldn't ask for a roll for such a simple maneuver, but as this is panic, can I ask you to make a dexterity and athletics roll, please, Bob? And don't worry, I've not forgotten Layla, who is also being pursued because she decided to... In a way, you're lucky. I'll tell you why after this roll, Bob.
Am I...
In a way, you're lucky.
Difficulty 6?
To gallop down these stairs? No, difficulty 7. It's slick with blood and gobbets of Belko.
It's good. 3 successes with a 10 as well.
Excellent. In that case, you take these steps 2 at a time. You're getting a hell out of here. You're not facing the torches of the Inquisition. So here's the good news, and this is a rare peek behind the curtain. And this may be the only good news that any of you get for the remainder of this session. If Layla hadn't led the entire Inquisitorial force, well, some of the Inquisitorial force away, they would have just put this place to the torch when they heard the scream. You would have emerged into a burning building, not a building where Inquisitors are marching in to deal with you martially. As it is, Layla has split the force, and therefore they're doing a search and destroy instead of just destroy and destroy. That's the good news. How good news that happens to be, we'll soon establish. I'm sticking with Warren for the moment. Warren, tell me what's going through your mind right now.
Okay, so not understanding what happened to Belko, his idea as he came up the stairs was that Belko was redeemed, and that gives him a chance at redemption if he can get his hands on the cloth. He can return. It's only been a few months. He could find his redemption. Then, as they get to the top of the stairs, they see these monks come in, and even though he wants to think of himself as something like he was before, he knows that there is some truth to him being sin, that he is damned, that he is wrong, and seeing these brothers of the church call them such, I think it brings the fear out of his beast, out of him, and rather than fight, it triggers flight, which is why he takes off in the opposite direction. But he's very much in a panic state right now.
So unlike Joan, you don't quite have the nous to navigate the labyrinth, and that was at difficulty 9. So you just basically scuttle into the catacombs and try and find a place to hide, or run into a dead end and don't know where you're going subsequently. I will give you the fleeting chance, Bob, of being able to escape the catacombs by running. And that is going to be a wits and survival roll, which you're good at, but the difficulty is 2 9s.
2 9s. Okay. We will see how this goes. As a former gameskeeper, survival is very high, but 9 is also very high. So we will see. Yeah, that's no successes and 2 1s.
Fuck.
Before the result of that, do you want to know what Vescom, a very angry Vescom, is going to do when these people start coming down, charging down into his home, down in the catacombs?
I'd like to know that, Zack, but I'd also like to know what kind of awful pitfalls, traps, jeopardies would you have placed in the catacombs of your haven, inadvertently or intentionally?
There are, like you said, there are many intentional and many that are just Vescom started digging a pit right here. He's going to put a lot of bones there and then just didn't really feel like it and tossed a bunch of debris that doesn't really hold up if you were to put a foot on it. But there are intentional traps. There are intentional dead ends that go nowhere. There are mud walls that are packed but not very thick. To make false walls, and it is like a labyrinth catacombs junkyard combination. I think Vescom himself is so well. Do you want me to tell you what his plans are?
Yes, please. I'll get back to Warren in a moment, but I don't think his fate's going to be terribly warm.
Yeah,
so
because
yes,
it
go
may
ahead,
affect
Zack.
him. So Vescom is in a certain rage. He no longer is thinking of what these monks and their possible stories and their lives, what they may contain, the possibilities. He is seeing everything he's known here be burned down and ripped to shreds. He is going to slink back, disappearing from view, using his full knowledge of these catacombs to hopefully, one by one, as they spread out and keep searching, attack them from the shadows, become them with Mask of 1,000 Faces to get close to another, to bite out the neck of another, to watch one get into a pit of daggers, someone trying to help, and that someone being pushed in as well. I think this is one of those moments where he truly becomes a Nosferatu monster in his haven.
Let's see how successful that is, Vescom. Because they have clocked you, they've seen you, they will follow you as you are trying to merge once again with the shadows and disappear. And once an Inquisitor has your scent, they're unlikely to let go of it. So this requires you to make a wits plus stealth roll according to unseen presence. And difficulty here is going to be a 9.
All right. I also have the
Oh, yes, you've got vanish from the mind's eye. So that's going to be against your victim's wits plus alertness. So you need to make intelligence plus stealth. My apologies. That is still difficulty 9 because Brother Samson is looking at you. I'm sorry. He is the chief Inquisitor.
Okay. Yeah, I think for Vanish from the Mind's Eye, I make a roll and then you make a roll, but the rolls are going towards different things because I have to get 4 successes to actually vanish completely.
Mm-hmm.
And then with your successes, it will make it so if you remember me or not, but it all depends on if I even get those 4 successes.
All right, well, let's see.
All right, let me roll intelligence stealth. All right, 8 dice at difficulty 9.
Yes, indeed.
I got two successes, no 10s or anything.
Okay.
Or sorry, one success.
One success.
One success.
All right, so you start seeping away. Let's see how Brother Samson does then, because he gets to make a Wits plus alertness. Yes, if you got 3 successes, you would disappear from the victim's senses entirely. As it is, you are just disappearing from their perception. So
Yeah, player tracking its perception plus alertness at difficulty of 8. On a successful roll, the character can interact normally with the ghost-like vampire.
yes, as it is, I rolled very badly. So, Vescom, you do indeed seep away. The Inquisitors, some of them blink and just start putting torches to the building. They forget about your existence, and Brother Samson cries at them, "What are you doing? I said pursue, pursue! There is a monster down there." "There is no monster, Brother Samson." "There is a monster, I shall deal with it myself." At which point he draws his sword and starts stalking after you. Now, I said I would get back to Warren and what occurred with him. Bob, you managed to somehow get 2 botches on one roll, which is always impressive. Now,
I was having such good luck, it only makes sense that it would come back around.
we've all heard the old rocks fall, you die kind of thing. Based on Zack's description, and I will only do this with your agreement, I love the idea that Warren was staggering around, essentially blind in this labyrinth, pushes through what feels like a partition to another wall, at which point not only do you fall into one of these loose shale graves, but also the walls and ceiling start collapsing on you, not offering you any kind of salvation, offering you what is potentially a torpor to come back at some time in the centuries. But I appreciate that is truncating your character's story. Is that something you'd want to happen with Warren in his panic, or would you prefer he went out in a different way?
I like dice doing what they do. I don't like overriding dice.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of makes sense with the roll. If it was, and it's tragic in its own way, right? He sought to flee, and instead he ran right into one of the worst outcomes that can be found.
In that
And
case,
it's also-
tell us what goes through his head.
Okay. I think as the rocks begin to fall and he feels himself slipping from conscious state, he says, This is my redemption. This is what I am owed. Penance worthy of more. Forgive me.
Warren is entombed like pharaohs of old, or more likely. Like a Malkavian trapped in Nosferatu's catacombs, buried under loose rock, just too dense, too heavy for him to claw his way out of. But at some point, some time in the centuries to come, some archaeologist, some damn fool, excavating this Middle Ages tavern, or the foundations of it, will discover this loose rock and probably find himself on the wrong end of a very, very old Malkavian. I appreciate we're only about halfway into our recording, and that is you, Bob. So if you're okay with that, good for you.
I am.
All right. We will return to Vescom and to Layla shortly. In a way, this section of our game may kind of serve as epilogues for each character. It really depends on where things go. They don't have to be short, so long as they're narratively satisfying and satisfying to you, the players. Joan, you emerged into the Cemetery of Thorns, the congregation of St. Anselm's, fleeing, not at the sight of you, but at the cloying darkness. If the Inquisitors weren't otherwise distracted right now, they would undoubtedly be descending on your location. Thorns is not a large town, as we've established before. How do you feel to be terrifying these poor, simple-minded mortals? Does it make you feel potent? Does it make you loathe your own being? At this point, given the fear that exists, the panic in you, what's going through your mind?
I don't think she cares about them at all. She hasn't really had the highest regard of people at all in her life, and the supernatural potency of her fate has made that all the more prevalent in her own life. I think that whilst feeling fearful of the situation at hand, I think there's actually a part of her that's getting a bit of a rush out of this, contributing to the chaos. Not that she's ever been a very chaotic person, perhaps more in her youth when she was learning the ropes, as it were. But there's something deep within her very being that's probably making her smile a bit as she's like navigating through the crowd, like trying to splinter off away from it all. There's a rush, like the more bestial nature of a beast wanting to hunt down the livestock.
As you sift through the wheat, or I should say, as you sift through the chaff, that makes more sense. Trying to maybe plant your fangs or your mind on a mouthful of wheat. The church doors open. Why these people weren't admitted to the church, you don't know. They were all forced to stand outside of it, but the church doors open and a dim light emerges from within, and you see in the doorway of the church a familiar sight, a man with whom you had very little in common, except in your mortal days. Father Isaac of St. Anselm's. Of course, back when you were alive, you had a far greater connection to the church than you do now. As a La Sombra, you still have that ecclesiastical link, but you were, until you grew jaded with it, a woman of faith. And Father Isaac, while you were always older than him, was a man you knew to serve this parish, this congregation for years. And from that doorway, he calls out. He's a lot older now, of course. Is that Joan? Is that Lady Joan over yonder in the cemetery? He seems oblivious to the screaming, panicked people. Please come forth to the church. I will not harm you.
I don't think she's going to listen to him. As, you know, the instinctual nature of the church is here. She's known about the church arriving. This mishmash of a coterie she tried to warn, as brief as it was, so it probably wasn't a very good warning. She's had this aware at the back of her head that the end times are cometh, so to speak. I don't think she would approach him, that she would, well, given the fact that he's locked eyes of her, she's not going to make any hesitant of, like, to be stealthy with it. She will flee.
He shouts after you. This is the only place you will be safe, but if you are so possessed of fear, then so be it. Where are you running to? Are you running back into town? Are you running into the woods? Are you trying to run back to the wreckage of your haven? Maybe find a crevice that you can slither into and hopefully wait out all this disaster?
No, I don't think she has the wits or the sentiment for that, especially with the previous night and the sort of the detached nature of her humanity from it. Probably wants nothing more to do with it now. It will bring about too much upset and anguish. It'll just a layer of her being weak, and she is certainly not weak. Ironic given the situation of what's happening, but you know, there is a need and she must get away from it all. So she's just going to flee, and wherever the night takes her, she's just getting away from all of this. She can start up again. She's done it before. She will do it again.
I think I'm going to ask you to make a road roll. This is, as I mentioned before, the equivalent of a luck roll in Vampire when I run it, to see if you encounter Layla during her flight. Is there the serendipity that you are running in the same direction? Would you want to be? It's an off chance, so I'm making it a difficulty 9.
It's also begs the question of who is it lucky for? No successes.
In that case, you tear off in the direction that feels safest right now. Get lost within the narrows between the houses. They can't all follow you through these narrow streets, trudging through the open ditch that makes for a sewer. There's wonderful irony as you find yourself stepping over and you can just see the back of his head emerging from all that river of muck. What was his name? Eric? You can't remember right now. It's gone from your head. You are between the buildings, hopping over duck boards and planks, the way people would have to get through a place like this, and traversing the stream of sewerage, trying not to put your foot down on the holy man that you murdered yesterday. I would like for you now to make a rare conscience roll.
What difficulty am I looking for?
Difficulty 6 is difficulty 6. If you succeed on your 1-die conscience roll, it finally breaks through to you the inhumanity of what you are.
I got a 4, so I don't think so.
No, I don't think it does. If you want, you could drop your road rating down again if you like, as you basically use the remains of his skull as a springboard to another street. I mean, we're playing fast and loose with humanity rules now.
I don't think it's narratively appropriate here, but I do think there's like a level of like angry disgust with it all, like perhaps snarling in a more bestial manner. She like just puts her foot through this spitty, fleshy, scully bit of muck as the shadows dancing around behind her like a twisted cape in the night, like clinging onto bits of tree and corpse and muck just trailing behind her.
Yeah, this isn't the noble way, but it is the way that you might survive. You leave your conscience back there, if you even had one. This is no time for guilt or compassion to a man you've killed. The only emotion that can survive right now is your need to preserve yourself. And so you keep on. You decide if there are any pursuers, you're going to lose them. And we may well return to Joan, depending on events that take place elsewhere in Thorns. But if we do not, we can assume that maybe she is able to lay low, maybe she is able to make it out onto the road, maybe she could even steal a horse and ride. She has a dot in that. Make it to another domain. We shall see. But first, Layla. If you were mortal, you would be panting and heaving and sweating, and all you can do is feel that unliving panic. It isn't even your beast that's doing it, commanding you. It's a more spiritual level. You're leaving something behind. You know you're leaving something behind. It is pulling you back while you are fleeing, and you can hear cries behind you, not just the people burning, but the people following those cries. You know that bloody rag that you just launched, you're still entwined with it. You're still bound to it. But you can see the forest of thorns on the horizon. You only need to make it outside the town limits, and you've lived and existed and made havens in that place before. That's a place you can feel safe. First of all, tell me what's going through your mind.
Her mind, it's racing. It's just, I just have to get to the forest before they find me. And she's, I think, I don't know, lost in a haze a bit of boo. It's not the first time she's been hunted. It's not the first time she's been hunted in Thorns, and it's almost like she's relived it in her nightmares so many times that it's practically familiar, and yet it doesn't make it any less terrifying. She's just running, feels the pull of that rag back there, but she's just wrestling with herself, trying to convince herself it'll be safer. You don't draw attention to it now. You can go back for it later. It will be safer that way. If you try to run for it now, you try to get it now, you only draw the crowd, only make it worse.
Can I ask for a dexterity roll? It would be dexterity and athletics, but sadly you lack
I don't have athletics, so just dexterity, yep.
You can use your thaumaturgy in place of it if you want, if you're going to basically apply your movement of the mind to propel you.
Yeah, I'll do that.
In which case you could spend a blood point to do it.
Let's do that. So then I'm adding to...
There you go. We're using movement of the mind as celerity in this game.
What's the difficulty?
The difficulty is only 6s.
2 successes.
2 successes. Very well. As you are pushing yourself forward, your feet barely touching the ground at this point, there is a great kinetic force that is just propelling you toward the tree line, away from this urban squalor, away from these hunters. There's a feeling that your connection to that rag grows taut, it grows thin, stretched, and you've seen what happens when that connection snaps. You saw what happened to Belko, but then it's severed. You're in the trees, you're looking down at yourself, you're waiting to see what happens to you. Is Layla ready for destruction? Is she ready to meet her maker?
No, not really. Not because she, just, there could be a time in the near future when she would be, but right now she is still in motion. It feels like there are things that are unfinished. So I would say no in this moment.
In that case, Layla, you do not start your immediate decomposition. You do not suddenly dissolve into ash and blood and grease, other unidentifiable substances, but you do feel a presence near you or inside you that reassures you in a way, masculine tone in a way that some people might mistake for God, but most certainly is not. And he says, "You are not cleansed. Child, you are still pitted in sin, and I cannot wash you of that. Only you can cleanse yourself, as I cleansed myself, as the knight who slew me cleansed his self. Therefore you must live with the stains, live with the sin."
Fine.
And the voice does not answer you, doesn't offer you absolution, doesn't try to take your confession. If this is Thomas Becket, if this is something else, maybe that's something to report back to the Tremere in Winchester should you survive some nights in the forest, if you ever decide to go back there.
Everyone is sin, cannot be cleansed. We can either own it, live with it, or let it destroy us. We are what we are, kindred and kind of like monsters.
Funny, almost an opposite approach to Griffith de Percy, whose outlook was similarly bleak, but in a completely different direction. Sin could be purged, it needed to be purged. No, not for Layla of Clan Tremere. So you melt into the darkness of the forest, where even the starlight cannot reach, back to your home where you feel safe. And speaking of home and safety, Vescom, you are still irate. You are still feeling that beast bubbling up. And the first of these ghastly monks to make his descent, sword flashing in one hand, torch in another. "I will find you, monster. I will find you and I will purify you. This sword has been blessed. I am blessed. And you are damned." On some level, Vescom, this feels like the kind of thing you should be transcribing to have performed.
He is in his mind, somewhere deep in his mind. But now, unlike many performances at the Minstrel's Mug, he is an actor. He is a character in what is to come here in the catacombs. Vescom, anger boiling within him, is going to use his haven's preparations. I think he would start off this confrontation waiting for this man to be drawn deeper, finding one of his stored barrels that houses murky, sludgy water. He calls them dunks. For any time a vampire might be caught with flame, seeing at some points candles are used down here, you could rush to one of these barrels. However, with the candles drawn low and really the only light left, perhaps that torch that the monk is carrying, Vescom's going to take a bucket of water and obfuscate. His plan is to douse that torch and pitch both of them into deep darkness.
Very nice. I'm not going to ask for a roll for that, Zack. That is a beautiful image. I love the idea of it, that as Brother Samson is navigating these catacombs, sword and torch flashing, then a sudden unexpected shower of thick, sludgy water. And he, of course, strikes out, tries to stab at you. Can I ask you to make an athletics and dexterity roll?
Or
You'll have to excuse that I always go ability plus attribute now. It's a curse of running lots of curse spawn.
yeah, let's take a three dice, a 9, a 3, and a 10.
Very good. That's sufficient successes that if you like, you can even disarm the monk. As he swings his sword for you, you could basically catch it, swat it.
I think Vescom is not. I think he is withdrawing back into the darkness. Vescom, there's a reason why he makes catacombs, why he digs into the dark earth. It's because that sickly green, yellowish orb in his head has no problem seeing in the dark. It is fiendish in its way it can see, and he sees clearly a man blind, swatting at the darkness, hitting the walls with a blade. And it's time for Vescom to taunt from the echoes of the tunnels. So, the fly has flittered into the web. A holy fly. Blessed be his blade. And Vescom is going to dip in and out of the shadows, out of obfuscate, to continually try to taunt and continue this story of this monk. His plan ultimately, however, is to draw him into a trap that he has down here. And if possible, when this man is beleaguered and wounded and helpless, Vescom is going to wrench up his head by the hair and dump corrupted, bloody vitae down his throat.
Delightful. Well, who am I to stand in the way of such a miserable fate? I think if I had you roll for that after such a wonderful description, that would be doing you a disservice. You do indeed toy with the Inquisitor. These men, yes, they do possess faith. And sometimes when he strikes at you, he hits and it burns against your flesh. But your will to torment him can allow you to push through that. It only heightens the drama. After all, you need a few chunks of flesh seared from the bone to make it feel like there's a fight going on. And so, Brother Samson takes quite a while before his will breaks. Every time he hits and smells the burning flesh, he lets out a hallelujah or a hosanna, and then tries to go for a second thrust. Each time he misses his second thrust. And Samson starts babbling after he's been at it for an hour. I need to do is run him through with my second. Once I have run you through with my second, this fight will be over, ghoul. But each time it is the slice that gets you, but the impalement that misses. And by the time his will breaks, yes, there is a part of him that is trying to strike at you, but he is calling out for his friends, his brethren, his brothers. But he's too deep in the labyrinth by that point to find them, for his voice to find them. It's just you and him now. And so, Zack, as you describe, when he is at his lowest ebb, where does your putrid blood gush from? Is it from the wrist, as tradition dictates? Or do you bite your rancid tongue and kiss the monk to bring him over to your side?
Oh, that's that imagery. I think one of his 3 worm-like extending tongues, one of them will flit over one of his countless fangs in his maw, slicing open the tip, and it will slither down the man's throat as he's held.
Beautiful. He struggles at first, but then comes the pleasure. Comes the vitae entering his system. The addiction, the desire to taste more of it. And slowly but surely, and it is slowly, you bring Brother Samson over to your side. Not quite a replacement for Big Belko, but for the time being, he'll do. Now, to conclude, with Thorns in a state of near ruin, I would like to actually finish with Joan. She hasn't quite left. In your panicked state, Joan, it has been very difficult for you to, well, quite frankly, secure an animal. Whenever you've found a horse, it's bolted. You cannot bring yourself under nearly enough control to bring one to a state of ease. Then you hear a voice. You recognize it. You recognize Red, your cutthroat, your bandit, your man. My lady? Is that you?
Red, thought you were surely lost.
This last day and night have been a complete... I cannot explain what they were, my lady. I was all prepared to flee. I have my horse here. You look quite unwell.
Well, as you say, it has been a night and a bit that I never want to endure for the rest of my nights and days.
Take my hand then, my lady. We'll get out of this place and we'll set up operation on a road someplace else, far from here.
I do think that is a
And
marvel.
He gives you his hand.
And she'll take it as ladylike as her panicked and frenzied state, frenzied as in the emotion rather than the vampiric frenzy, and help herself up onto said horse.
Last roll of the game, Jack. Last roll of the game. And it's conscience once again. I'm not just picking on it because it's one dot. And I'm not just picking on it because no vampire games roll virtues as much as I do. But it's because I love Pendragon, and I love rolling traits and passions, and virtues are the closest thing we have to them in this game.
Yeah, they are fun.
It's because in everything you have been through, and you look down at Red Nils, the one man you can trust, the one man you can rely upon, but maybe your face hardens, maybe your will strengthens, maybe you think, but I've got the horse, why do I need the man? So make a conscience roll. Let's see whether Joan becomes the archetypal La Sombra bitch, or whether she still has time in her heart, space in her heart, for the one man who remained loyal.
And what difficulty am I looking for this?
We'll go down the middle for 6.
4.
In that case, as Red puts his hand up for you to help him, you can spur that horse into action, and the horse kicks back, clocks Red with its hooves, knocks him back into the sewer you just climbed out of, more of a trench, really, and you go riding off on the road out of Thorns, leaving our 4 characters in different states, it must be said. Thorns is no longer aflame, though certainly the Inquisitors have dealt with many of its inhabitants, those who didn't please them in some way. There are no more Cainites in Thorns but for one, and I suppose if we want to do the whole time to use the title of the Chronicle, we can say he finally has the crown. Vescom is the only vampire left in Thorns. And so maybe one night in the future, when everything settles down, Nosferatu will be a baron or a prince, or whatever title he chooses to wear. But Layla returns to the wild, at least for a time. Maybe she returns to Winchester. Maybe she doubles back and claims that blood-soaked cloth if she can find it. As we've established, Warren, you are set for a period of torpor, at least until Vescom decides he's going to excavate his tunnels and find and study the damage done. And I imagine, Joan, you're going to want to put all of this very far behind you, all this loss, all this waste. There are things that can be built, but nothing good can be built in Thorns. And in amid it all is a simple bolt of cloth soaked in the blood of a living saint that will get buried in wreckage and refuse, may even be burnt to an extent, but it will not be destroyed, and it will end up in the hands of another vampire at some point. Maybe even a Tremere from this coterie, maybe another K-Knight entirely. But for now, it is just another piece of rubbish in the graveyard that is Thorns. And that is where we shall end our chronicle.
Hell yeah.
I applaud the players.
Yeah.
And for the viewers, I want to say thank you so much for watching. The players, thank you so much for playing. And it is always a thrill to run for such fantastic players. I really appreciate it. For those of you who have been watching on YouTube and leaving such wonderful comments about all of these fantastic people, I really appreciate it. Your encouragement goes a long way to make them play so damn well. But it also encourages good people like Bob to organize games like this. And so my biggest thanks goes to Bob, who brought me out of vampire retirement to run this chronicle for his channel. So thank you so much, Bob.
It was a selfish role. It wasn't.
Thank you, Bob. I'm happy too.
Does anyone want to say any final words before we call it on Crown of Thorns?
You go ahead.
All right, cool. Yeah, I'll like to rant just a little bit. Again, thank you ever so much, Matthew, for running this game for us. It's been an emotional roller coaster in all the best possible ways. Thanks, Bob, for the invite, and everybody else doing a wonderful job with all your different characters and role playing. And it's been a lot of fun. And this is the first actual play that I've been a part of in the last 4 years. Like anyone who watches any of the videos on my own channel will know that I've been a bit on the negative side regarding involvement with actual plays because of burnout and other bits and pieces I shan't bore you with now. But it's been such a wonderful, nice, friendly environment all the way through this that despite having played a game only with one of these people before, it feels like I've known everybody here for quite some time. I mean, I've talked with Bob a little bit off and on for the last a few years, but it's been such a very nice, welcoming, friendly environment with great levels of professionalism, just organizing and scheduling things and just how everyone has conducted themselves, that it's made me feel very at ease doing all this. So in short, you're all amazing and I appreciate all of you.
Thanks. I just
Awesome.
want to echo a lot of that sentiment. I've had such a good time doing this little mini chronicle. All of you guys have been fantastic to play with. Matthew, you've been an amazing storyteller. Goes without saying, but I'm saying it anyway. I would be thrilled to play with any and all of you any time in the future. So thanks, Bob, for inviting me to be here. And thanks to everyone for making it awesome. Thanks to viewers too for watching and supporting. Very much appreciated.
Yes, thank you.
I'll let Zack go next.
Yeah, everything's been said. This has been amazing, suspenseful. The drama. This is Vescom levels of drama that's been in it. But it's very different just kind of jumping in and playing characters. I mean, I'm kind of familiar with my own character, but playing characters that need to kind of semi-know each other already and having 3 sessions to play and have one fun, good arcs and theme that still sticks with World of Darkness and have it all play out very satisfyingly. I think it happened brilliantly here. So yeah, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Matthew, for running this for us. And well, it seems like Hotel Vescom is still open for business. Everyone is welcome to have a room.
To my shot.
Yeah.
Right, I'll go next. I just wanted to say that I think it was really brilliant to watch the 3-part conclude more like a movie would, where it's really about the characters and, what happens to them in that 3-part series rather than sort of concluding like a mission per se. I think that was really brilliantly handled, Matthew. And though this is mostly a Pendragon channel, as Matthew noted early on, are evolving a bit, and Vampire is very high on my favorites list, so you'll probably be seeing a little bit more of that here. As far as Crown of Thorns goes, I would love to see some sort of sequel to this at some point, and we'll be definitely entertaining what that looks like. And the more we hear from the fans, the more response we get, the more likely that is to happen. So please don't mute your voices if you have strong opinions about seeing us.
I'm going to add one final thing, because I know viewers love peeks behind the curtain, certain reveals about plot elements and so on. There was always the possibility in my mind that Griffith de Percy wasn't one of the knights that killed Thomas Becket, and he's just fucking insane. He's a Malkavian. What do you want? But it quickly became apparent that this group would have been more centered if there was a sincerity to the faith-based part. That it wasn't just a manifestation of his dementation, for example, though it was, but not just because he was a lunatic. But I had in mind for this session, because I didn't know how it was going to conclude, of course, what would have occurred if all of you had left. And I think it was Vescom who suggested what would happen if all of us touched it. The Inquisitors basically wouldn't have identified you as undead. They would have seen you as, for the time being at least, sanctified, and may have questioned you. You know, are you new rivals in town? That could have got you in hot water. But otherwise, you would have bypassed them because you would have been holding on to this holy relic. Not like a security card or anything, but just because you would not have triggered their hounds, their sense, their faith. And as it was, you were also terrified of it by the end. That you basically, you committed more to being Cainites than you did to being purified, which was a wonderful, wonderful decision, especially as I really enjoyed Warren finally becoming almost human in his fear. He went from almost the reverse of he is the archetypal vampire Malkavian to all of a sudden he's feeling his mortality because he's in flight. He's fleeing now. He's no longer so assured of his own place in the world. And everyone had their own, I guess what you'd call come to Jesus moment in this Chronicle, where Vescom actually became the monster. He became the devil that he was always being described as. And so on. So yeah, there were lots of contingencies in place just to make sure everyone got some kind of satisfactory conclusion. But yeah. So who knows? Maybe that holy relic will be found again. Maybe it'll be at a time when a convention's being held in Thorns in 1493. Maybe someone will use it and everything will blow up. We'll have to find out if we ever return to the domain. For the life of me, I can't imagine why this coterie would ever get together again. But as role players, we have to contrive these things sometimes.
Absolutely. I encourage you to subscribe to Mortal Roles and to subscribe to Lore by Night and to the Gentleman Gamer on YouTube, who will be listed as collaborators. So nice and easy to subscribe. Thanks for watching, y'all. Thank you so much. And we'll see you perhaps for part 2. Take care.
Part 2. I mean, it would make for a great story if that rag happened to show up at the Conference of Thorns.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Becomes the ring.
You know, on the as the joke commented, the excavation idea that some kindred in the future have to go dig this thing up and escort it somewhere. And we just so happen to be the unintended party.
Yeah. Well, only you know what's there. That's the thing. The Inquisitors don't really know what they're looking for. They were looking for the killer of Thomas Becket. They don't know that there's a rag soaked in blood. So, yeah, your coterie does have that as a potential reason to work together again, in the sense that we know what's there. Maybe we can do something with it when times get desperate.
Meep meep. That's my air horn. Okay. Holy smokes. Thank you again, everyone. And as always, we hope that you live your best selves in your mortal roles. We will see you next time. Ciao. Bye.
Bye, guys. Wow,
Wow, you guys. Wow.
Oh my gosh.